Okay, we're going to create this little app called Cloning Balloons. We have a template that we're going to start with. It has a background and it has two characters that are just dancing. And we are going to create clones of balloons that will float up in front of them. This process of learning to take one thing and make it stamp itself out many times is a process we're going to use over and over again, especially with the zombie application that we have coming up. So if I hit the space bar, these are all clones of a balloon, and they will go up at random intervals on the screen. So we're going to learn how to do that now. Okay, so you'll head on over to the Google Class page, and in the Classwork tab, under Coding, you'll see that we have a new assignment called Cloning Balloons. When you click on that assignment, it opens up, and you can see that there is a template here that you can download. You'll download the template, then you'll head on over to Scratch, and you will create a new assignment and upload the template. And when you do, you'll see that Scratch has a background here and two dancers. The dancers, if we look inside, have some code on them, and it says when the space key is pressed forever, just go to the next costume. And you can see they have a variety of costumes here that make them move, and it waits 0.3 of a second and then goes to the next costume. And as you can see, the second dancer has the exact same code on his screen. It is just go to the next costume, wait 0.3 of a second, and repeat. Okay, on the balloon sprite, there is a set of code that looks a little bit different because this is where all the action happens. When the green flag is clicked, the balloon itself hides itself. Right now, the balloon is all the way down here. And you are basically trying to put the balloon down at the very bottom. If you take your mouse and you grab the balloon near the bottom, and then you try to push the balloon down like this, but your mouse is below the frame itself, it will just pop the balloon back or whatever sprite it is back on the stage, exactly where it was before. You have to grab sort of the top of the balloon, and then as long as you keep the tip of your mouse on the screen, inside this screen here, the balloon will go down farther and farther. And as you can see, the y-axis this is sitting at is -257 because the y goes from top to bottom. And you want this balloon to start very low, and then you want it to rise up as time goes on. But the other thing you want it to do is pick a random location in the x direction. So you might always want it at -257, but x can be any random number from -160 to +160. So let's take a look at the code. We are going to create, when the user hits the space bar, we're going to create clones. You'll find those clones in the control section. At the bottom, it says create a clone of myself. So when the user hits the space bar, you're going to create a clone of myself, which is the sprite, which is the balloon sprite. And if you do this 10 times in a row, repeat it 10 times in a row, this is machine time, so it will happen almost instantaneously. Instead, what you should do to make the balloons kind of stream up lightly is you should go to add a wait block and maybe add at least 0.1 of a second. Maybe you want some more if you want to make these a little bit more airy and spaced out. So what it will do is it takes a copy of itself and it just makes another one. Now, there's a set of code over here that says when I start as a clone. So every time it makes a new copy of itself, it's going to execute this, whatever you have in this when I start as a clone section. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure it's showing. You're going to pick not just a specific costume, but you're going to pick a random costume. So to pick a random costume, you can say next costume, or you can say random number. So we'll go down here to operators, and we'll pick a random number from 1 to 3 because the costumes not only are labeled, but they're numbered. And this balloon sprite has 3 costumes on it. The costumes are blue and yellow and purple. So you're going to pick a random number, 1, 2, or 3, and fill that in for the costume number. And then you're going to set the Y position to negative 257, which will put it right down here where the master one is currently. And you're going to set the X position to a random location. And you're going to pick a random location in the X range, which is negative 160 to positive 160. And that ought to take this new clone, and stick it anywhere down here. So technically you're going to want show to be after that, but because it's happening in machine time, this is happening almost simultaneously, you won't notice the difference. Now, you're going to change the Y for this new clone that you just created. You're going to change the Y so that it slowly walks up. And you're going to repeat this a bunch of times. If I repeat this 20 times and I change the Y by 10, it's 10 in the positive direction, so it's going to be going up the Y axis. And now when I hit the space bar, I got to get out of there, and hit the space bar, you should see that it's going to start to create clones and it'll pop them up. Those clones did not make it all the way to the top of the stage. You're going to probably want them to go all the way to the top of the stage. So you're going to play with some of these numbers here to make that happen. I just spammed it here by just leaving my finger on the space bar. One of the things you'll notice is that once you get to have too many clones on the page, it will stop making clones. The number is somewhere around 200 or 250, something like that. So, and you'll be able to experience that if you just hold your finger on the space bar. You'll see where it gets to a point where it just won't clone anything anymore. And that will be if you do something like that. You'll see it even better if you repeat this maybe 30 times or 40, let's say 40 times, so it makes it all the way to the top. And now you'll see that you can spam it, and then all of a sudden it runs out of the ability to make clones, and so you get those hard lines. But you can still kind of slowly pop these balloons through, and they will just nicely come up on the page. Okay, and that is all you need to do to clone sprites. Please remember to share your Scratch project and post the link to the Google Class assignment.